right, good morning, all. Good morning, everyone. I hope you can see my screen. All right. Welcome to another beautiful day of our internship. And I hope you've been learning so fast. And if you are learning fast, can I see some thumbs up? All right. Excellent. Yeah, this morning we'll be looking at another important tools in research because this internship mainly focus on research and development. So we've been discussing a whole lot about how impactful data has been, and we've been looking at some presentation tools and some analytic tools. Like in the previous week, we look at how to use MS Word, how to use PowerPoint, how to use Excel. Yes, these are basic tools that are needed when you're doing some research, right? So there are some advanced tools that are also very important besides Excel, PowerPoint. So there are also important tools that are very relevant. So in this section, in the next 3 weeks, we'll be looking at some tools, a particular tools, which is Python. Python is another wonderful tools that can aid uh, your research when trying to analyze data. So beside Python, there are other tools like Arrow, there are Status, and there are eView. There are so many analytic tools out there. But we decided to choose Python because of its uniqueness and it is versatile. And it is a type of programming that gives you that privilege to interact or to modify things at your convenience. And it's simple and easy to use. So the next 3 weeks, we just focus on a crash course on Python, how we can use Python for data analysis. Although there are many applications of Python besides data analysis, it is useful in web development, it is useful in game development, it is useful in app development, it is useful in machine learning. So we're going to look at how we can use it to wrangle data, how we can use it to visualize things, data sets, how we can use it to visualize our research and add aesthetic to our research. So this is the aim of this class in the next 3 weeks. And we're also going to dive a little bit, if we have time, into a machine learning approach if time permits us. But if we can't get there, I think what you're going to cover in the next 3 weeks is enough to take you throughout the journey of Python. So let me quickly move down to my slide. I hope my slide is visible. Yeah. So in the overview of this class, we're going to look at some introduction to Python. We're going to look at the background history and advantages of Python, fundamental programming principles, and the installation processes. And we're going to cover some other things which are not in the slide. All right, so let me just quickly tell us about some things about Python. So Python is a high-level language. When I mean by high-level language, it means that it takes the normal languages which we are used to, like the English language. So they are different from low-level languages. Low-level languages are mnemonic language, your zeros and ones and some other ANSYS language codes. But high-level languages are just normal languages, our natural language. Yes, say um, say your English language, your Japanese language, Chinese language, and Spanish language. So all of this natural language we can think of. So that's why Python is a very useful tool. So it's a high-level language. It's an interpreter programming language. By saying it's an interpreted programming language, we are saying that, oh, it reads it reads your input. So it understand your input. So it doesn't require you to define some certain language, some certain strings. Oh, this is what this means. No. By definition of an interpreter, it means that he understands the types of language and as long as you are following the structure of the programming, so it understands it. So it was first released by Van Rossum in 1991, and ever since then, programmers or mathematicians have been working so hard to ensure it covers every endeavors of human endeavors. So, and today, Python is the most used language globally after Java programming language. Yeah, it is simple and it is versatile, easy to use. Yes, I find it very important. I find it very friendly. Okay, so and its application, like I've mentioned, is enormous, including web development, data analysis, AI, and scientific computing, and lots more. All right. So, and for this class, we'll be focusing on data analysis. And if time permits us, we can look at AI and machine learning. But if time doesn't, we'll just quickly look at data analysis. And yeah, any question at this point? This let's make the class interactive. Any question?
No questions.
All right, thank you. So, and I know most of us have heard about it. We've watched a lot of YouTube, a lot of, yeah, it's fine. So, but uh, so some key features about Python. One, like I've mentioned, is an interpreter. Okay, so, and yeah, it is quick for development and testing. And another important thing about Python is that it's object oriented. It sees everything like what? Like an object. Everything like an object. It models everything as an object. Like other programming language, they are not seeing all items as an object. They see some items as a particular data type. But Python sees it as an object-oriented program and it sees it as object-oriented activities. So your variables are seen as an object, your numbers are seen as an object, functions, classes, and are seen as what? Objects. So, and it supports encapsulation. That means it allows privacies. When you encapsulate, it means you are adding some privacies to it, making it secure. So it support inheritance, meaning that you can easily take some copies of variables or some functions from a higher programming language, a higher variable to a lower variable, or a lower to a higher variable. What do I mean is that you can copy some certain characteristics, some certain distributions from a higher class or a higher function or a previous set function into a new developed function. So it has that ability. By inheritance, it's just similar to, let's say we have a father that has some certain property and you want to give it to your siblings or to the family member. Okay, so in that process, that uh, person is inheriting the property of a certain rich man. So when you have that idea, that is the same idea is what Python sees as inheritance. By polymorphism, we are saying that okay, you can you can represent a certain symbol, a certain class, a certain function in different forms. So now it supports dynamic typing. What do we mean by dynamic typing? It means that when you define your variable, so there is no need to specify its types. Like in previous language, we're going to see all of this. In previous languages, you have to define, oh, this is an integer, this is a character, a variable, this is a string, this is. So you're going to define them in your JavaScript or in your Java. You're going to define the type of integer you are. But in Python, once you define your variable, it knows the type already. So we're going to see all of this. So it has a very large standard library, like I've mentioned, from 1991 when Rose Vasson developed this program. There have been a lot of mathematicians and data computer scientists who have increased the libraries and it supports. So the libraries is enormous and it's almost applicable to every aspect of human endeavor. So, and one important thing why Python is a most sorted after programming language is because of this function. You can define your function, you can manipulate it. In fact, if you have developed a formula today, you can what? You can import it into the Python system and it will be recognized. So we're going to look at some standard library and how you can create your own library to suit your own activities. Yeah, Python gives that flexibility. And also, Python can be run across different platforms, says your Windows, your Linux, your Mac OS, and a lot of platforms. So it supports them, right? So now, some benefits, like we have said earlier, it is easy to learn, it is versatile, so and it supports large community. Large community in the sense that you can wake up today and say, well, after learning this program, I want to develop my own code. And you send it to the community for approval, and it becomes a library. So easy. And if you decided to okay keep it and you want to make it private and you want to monetize it, oh, very good. So these are these are the supports that Python gives. And it has a rich ecosystem open source library. Yes, so there are a lot of open source libraries that you can leverage on and work, and you can also you can also develop a private one if you feel like. So it depends on your understanding on how you want to use your Python. Okay. So and look, like I've said, it has a cross-platform compatibility. Yeah, so it's it is rapid. It has a rapid development, meaning that everybody are interested in Python. I believe after this class, you will also be in this item number 6. You will also develop rapidly and also contribute massively to Python. I hope you're going to do that. Let me see some thumbs up. Excellent. Yeah. So now it supports scalability. What do you mean by scalability? It means you can define your Python to any extent you want. So you can manipulate, you can do anything you want with your Python. Just have the basic understanding and follow the rules to the letters. I hope we don't have any issue at this point. I want everybody to be followed along. All right, all right. So now we are going to the cross of the day. So okay, let's quickly compare it. Okay, I think I've done some comparison with other data types. Yeah. Okay, what a definition of programming. Yeah, it is very important we know what programming means. So programming is not coding, okay? Coding is different from programming. So programming, how do we define programming? Because like I said, programming is not the same thing as what coding. So if you are doing coding, it's different from you are doing programming. So what does programming means? We can say programming is a process or is an act of writing, of testing, maintaining softwares, and designing softwares. Yeah, it's an act or a process of writing, testing, and yeah, maintaining software program. All right. So that is so when you are doing programming, fine. There are different types of programming you want to do. Are you doing programming for web development? Are you doing programming for app development? Are you doing it for game development? Are you doing it for database management? Are you doing it for network security or for cloud computing? So these are what we call programming. So coding is just a process of using those syntax, those programming language. Yeah. So the process of using those syntax, yeah, that's what we call coding. So programming is just ability to write and manage software effectively. And exactly what we want to do today. We want to write, we want to code, and we want to also what program. All right. So there are many programming language besides Python. We have JavaScript, the C++, the C Sharp, the C. itself and the JavaScript. So these are programming languages that have been in existence. So, but it's quite unfortunate. R is not a programming language. So please have that in back of your mind. R is not a programming language, it's a statistical package, right? So apart from that, we have PHP, we have also Ruby, we have Go, we have Rust. So there are so many programming language, but the most prominent one or the most versatile one as we speak today is still a Python programming. All right. So, but the concept of programming is built on majorly two concepts. Two concepts. These are the two concepts you're going to understand properly. The first concept is variable, and the other concept is what? Is data type. So these are the two major concepts you need to pay attention to. If you understand these two properly, your problem or your ability to write code or to program effectively has been increased up to 50%. So know variables and also know your data type effectively. So beside that, there are other supporting concepts that you're going to know how to, what conditional statement means, what looping means, what function means, what object-oriented programming means, what debugging means, what IDE means. So these are some other supporting concepts you also understand to be able to uh, write codes effectively outside Python, not only Python, outside Python. Let's say you are using Java, for instance. So if you understand variable types and data types, you are good to go. And their conditional statements, you are good to go. But also, this same concept is applicable to almost all programming language you can think of, but they have some unique distinctions. All right, hope I'm making sense. Good. So now we also have your, we are also trying to look at Java and Python. How are they different? Yeah, I can just quickly tell us some two things. One, Python is dynamic, meaning that you don't need to specify what type of variable you are giving to your compiler. No, you don't need to do that. He knows, or Python knows. JavaScript is static, meaning that you need to define, oh, I'm giving you integer. I'm assigning, what's it called? I'm assigning a string. I'm assigning a boolean. So you need to define the type of data type you are giving to, the type of variable you are imputing into a JavaScript compiler. But in Python compiler, no. It Python understands the variable types you are given. All right. So another distinction between Python and other languages is that Python is an interpreter. However, JavaScript is a compiler. Compiler in the sense that it reads the code one line after the other. If a line is not complete, the program will not run. But in Python, it runs all program and specify a line that has issues. If that code is faulty or it has some bugs in it, it's going to detect it. That's why it's an interpreter. It reads all the line by line, but it compiles everything together. But Python reads one line after the other. I hope it's clear. Yeah. So, and the use cases, Python is mainly used for backend and also for front end, but JavaScript are used for front end development alone. Yeah. So they used to link the front end to the back end, but Python mainly focuses on the back end. However, Python too can be channeled to front end to some in some extent, but depends on level of proficiency. But mainly, Python is a tool mainly used for backend development. So now let's quickly look at uh, quickly look at how to install Python on our machine. Okay. So, and I hope we are joining this meeting with our laptops. If you are joining the meeting with your laptop, you can drop an emoji or you can drop a chat saying I'm joining with a PC, so that just put PC in the chat. Yeah, type PC in the chat. So let me see those who are joining with their laptop. And those who, if you're not joining with your laptop, let me see an emoji of a like. Just do a thumbs up for me. Okay, okay, okay. About 90% of, yeah, about 90% of the class are joining in with their mobile phone. Good, good. All right. So for those who have laptops, I will quickly go through the process. And for those who doesn't, let me quickly attend to those who doesn't have a laptop. Okay, if you are joined with your mobile phone, so now that is there is Python has also made it so easy that you can code without your laptop. Okay, so even with a mobile phone you can do that. So you can download from Play Store your Python. Just type Python in Play Store. You can download that as well. So if you in Play Store, you can download Python and use the Android version. But if you don't want to download that, you can also go to Google Colab. So I encourage you to use Google Colab. So let me quickly open a Colab and let's see how it looks like. So this is Google Colab. So in your mobile phone, just type colab.research.com. Okay. So just wait for a minute. You're going to have an environment like this. If you are there, give me a thumbs up. Let's see. If you are here, give me a thumbs up because this class we're going to code along. So make sure you have your Google signed in your phone, in your phone. Okay. So if you are in this page, gives me a thumbs up. Do we have issues? Do we have issues in getting to this page? So when you do that, just click on new.
Hello, please, sir.
Yeah.
We have a lot of Python there in the Google app or Google Play Store. Which one are
Okay.
we to select?
Yeah. Anyone is okay. There's no specific recommend. There's no one that is not okay. But if you have don't solo learn will want you to use some default we want you to use some predefined. So but if you have Python Pydroid 3, if you have that, that's okay. Pydroid 3, that's okay.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
All right. So if you are okay, someone is raising up his hand, please go on. Oyebamiji, you can go on with your question. So you can use Pydroid 3 in Pydroid is spelled.
I'm not actually asking question. Is a mistake.
All right. So you can use Pydroid. If you're using an Android, you can use Pydroid 3 in this phone. So it's also very okay. So just download it and you can also code along. But if you cannot do that, you can also use the this collab. All right. So collab is very okay. So so if you are there, if you are in this collab, you can give me a thumbs up. All right. So but if you are using a laptop, so all right. So but if you are using a laptop, so let's quickly look at the installation for a laptop. So the installation for a laptop, you go to Python. So just type Python download, takes you to the first one you're going to encounter, Python programming in this form. So you download it. So currently we have Python version 3.13. So you download it. So immediately after you download, yeah, it's running. So while it's downloading, so you can also download direct and automatically detect your types of the type of system you are using. But you can also come down here and select. Okay, you can also come down here and select the type. All right. So while we wait is downloading, so also um, after downloading, we're going to also look at another IDE. IDE is just an environment that enable us to use Python. Normally, Python comes with a Python shell that enable you to what? To write codes. But if you don't want to use that, to do because of some certain artificial intelligence that are associated with IDE. It makes your code easy. It makes readability beautiful. It provides some intelligence to your code. It gives some codes indentation. It gives a whole lot of features that comes with IDE that Python shell does not possess. So with this now, you can think of some IDE that are very okay. So some of the popular IDE that we have include Colab. We've seen one already. We've seen PyDrive from an Android phone. We've also seen, okay, we've not seen PyCharm, okay? So, but I'll just run us through some things. So we have PyCharm, we have Studio Code, we have Ellipse, we have Sublime, Atom, Spider, and Jupyter Notebook. So these are some IDE that are very okay. So, but for data analytic, the most recommended one is Jupyter Notebook. All right. So this is the recommended one for data analysis. Also, the other second in the list should be a Visual Studio Code. So I'll quickly also run us through how you can get your Visual Studio Code. So you log on to your web, you just type Visual Studio Code. So this first one in blue, don't forget one in blue. That's what you download. There is one in pink, and so there is one in pink. Don't do the pink color. So, but the one in blue color, you click on download. All right. So if you click on this, it takes you to their website. So you can select your machine types. Are you looking, is your machine window? Is it so you can select the type. So download for window. Automatically it will dictate the type of window you are using. So except otherwise you can change it. So you should download for window. Yeah, so it's downloading already. So you download it. But if you don't have that, I can also recommend Anaconda. So uh, there's Anaconda which comprises this is Anaconda. All right, you can also download Anaconda, but it's kind of heavy. If your system is not up to 4 gig RAM, you will have issues with Anaconda. Okay, so it's going to slow down the system operation. So you can also download Anaconda. It comes with Jupyter Notebook, it comes with VLC, it comes with a lot of packages. All right, so now we've downloaded Visual Studio Code, we've downloaded the Python. Yeah, so let's quickly look at how to install them if you are using a PC. So for the Visual Studio Code, let's quickly install that first. That one have completed. So locate it in your folder, in your download. So you can find it here. Yeah, so it's just easy to do. Okay, I have an app running already. So yeah, you accept the license, the agreement stamp, you accept it. You are advised to read through, okay? You're advised to read through, but I have read it over and again. So you accept it. So you click on you ensure that this last one is very important. Add to paths. You ensure you do that. You can also create it on your desktop if you feel like. You can also, yeah. So, but these are three I majorly encourage you to check. Then you continue. So you click on install. So when you install it in 2-3 minutes, it has been installed. But I'm going to cancel it because I already have Visual Studio Code running on my system already. All right. So now that is fine. So we also also check if our Python has been completed. Yes. So we can see it in the folder. Yes. This is Python that we just downloaded 3.13. So you click on it, you hit it running, you come to something like this. So make sure add path is what is ticked. All right. So you can go to install now, or you can also do install by customization, but I encourage you to use install now. So when you click on that, it starts installation. But I'm going to stop it. I won't install it because I already have Python installed in my machine. All right. So if you have any challenges in installation, you can also hit me up. So after installation, we cancel it. After installation, you come to your CMD. So you come to your CMD, type CMD, and you check. You type Python. You can even use a shortcut py. So if you type py, it shows you uh, the version, the version types you have. So presently I'm using version 3.12.5. You can also type it in full Python. So you can type Python dash dash version. Okay. So let me run my CMD. So you can type Python dash dash version. It gives you the version type that you have. You can use py alone. It gives you the type of version you have. All right, so these are ways to check if Python is in your machine. All right, so if you are joining with your laptop, if you are joining with your laptop, you have Python installed. So you can search for your VLC now, your Visual Studio environment. So this is your Visual Studio code that we installed. So you pick it up from there. So yeah, so you have an environment like this. Let me close down all of this. Yeah, so you're going to have an environment like this. So any question at this point? So I believe we all have Python in our machine. So and if you're using your Android, you have your PyDroid ready now. Good. And if you are using the Google Colab, you have your Colab ready in this form. All right. So, but for this class, maybe I should stick to Colab. All right. So, and I will also encourage you to use Colab. Okay.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have Anaconda installed already on
Oh,
my
good.
system.
Good.
I'll be using Jupyter through
Oh,
the process.
all right. That is excellent. So that's good. So if you're also having an Anaconda, that's beautiful. All right. And but just ensure you have your page running. Let's quickly look at some let's go back to our slide. So we have completed all of this. So the environment has been set up. If you are using Colab, if you are using a mobile phone, I will encourage you to use Colab, or you can also use a Hydroid from an Android phone. Yeah, but I encourage you to use Colab regardless. So, and if you are using Jupyter Notebook, that's fine. And if you are using uh, Visual Studio Code, that is good. So, and also, if you want to learn Python, there are free platforms where you're going to learn Python from, like your Coursera, your edX, Code Academy, Kaggle, SoloLearn, 36 School. This is actually my favorite. So 36 School is the best because immediately you've completed your tutorials there, right? You'll be given a certificate of completion. Yeah, for free. Understand? So and the certificate goes a long way. So it's I will encourage you to learn with Teresa schools. So you can also look at MIT and yeah, you can also use that, and also you can also leverage on YouTube. All right. So let's quickly look at some things. So just like we know the meaning of computer. If you remember in our basic schools, we used to define computer like computer is an electronic device that does some things and some things and some things, right? So this definition still plays a long way in programming. If you want to understand programming very well, stick to that definition, all right? So we say computer is an electronic device that what accepts inputs, right? So we're going to look at how Python accepts inputs. That's the first thing. Computer is an electronic device that accepts what? Inputs. Don't forget, it does what? It processes them, right? It processes them. It does what again? It stores them, right? It stores data. And it does what again? It outputs. So that is the definition of computer we know, all right? So these are definition of computer we know already, and this also is what is playing down in programming. All right. So by definition of okay, my input is kind of wrong. I mind my yeah. So so this is what we know from the definition of a computer. So and these are some things we are going to stick on to. So computer, we know that it inputs, it processes them, it stores data, and it what outputs them. So these are the things we are going to leverage on. All right. So let's look at how to input into your computer. How do you input data? So, but this is a Colab, all right, and it's similar to a Jupyter environment. But I want to quickly run us through some things before coming back to this. So let me quickly look at this VLC environment. If you're using a VLC environment, so before you can define, you've installed this VLC is an IDE, okay, Integrated Development Environment. That's IDE. So, and also the Colab we saw earlier is also an ID, all right? So it's an integrated environment that is integrated to what? To a Google itself, to Google itself. So, but VLC is an environment independent of Google, but they are an organization that developed this software. They incorporate it with Python environment. So if you have your VLC, you can create a file. So for if in a VLC environment, an environment that is not attached directly to Python, you need to link it with Python by creating. So for a VLC environment, I will encourage you to first create a new folder. All right. So let me go to my desktop. So let me go to my desktop. let me create a folder here. So let me create a new folder. So let me call it um, internship. All right, let's call the folder internship. Inside this folder, yeah, we've opened a folder called internship. So you can now go to your VLC, locate that internship by coming to File, click on Open Folder. So we go to the desktop and select a folder called internship. Good. We have a folder called internship. So now we can create a new file. All right. So we create a new file. So you can decide which type of file you want to create. Is it normal text file? Is it Python text file? Is it Jupyter Notebook file? But I'm not going to use this approach. I'm going to use an approach that will be very okay. And you come to this place, create a new file. So let's say you create a new Python file. Yeah, good. So you're going to save it using Control S. When you save it, let's call it class1.py. Don't forget to put this. That is very important. That's why I'm using this. So you say .py. So this is called a Python script. Can you see that it automatically changes the sign to a Python logo? Yeah, you can see it changes to Python logo. So, but in a Jupyter, in a Colab environment, right? So it's very difficult to use a py, though you can use py, but .py, you can create a .py file, but it's an integrated environment, so automatically it takes a Jupyter Notebook environment .ipnyb. You can see that's what it ends with. You can also define that in your VLC by doing create a new, so you can just say a new notebook. So automatically you have dot what? IPYNB. You can also do that. So let me save it. So inside, don't forget the root file is what? Internship. So you save it there. Say, let's say class 2 dot what? Integrated Python notebook. So you can select the type of you can select the type, but I can't find the type here. But don't worry, don't let that bother you. All right, so dot ipynb. Good. So automatically this is a ipynb. So you can also run your Jupyter notebook inside your VLC environment. That is the objective. So we have developed a Python script and we have developed a Jupyter notebook in this environment. Any question at this point before we move to other section? Any question? All right, so if there is no question, let's proceed. So now we want to go to the other section, we want to look at how to create a variable. Like I rightly mentioned, variables are, are just the horses for programming. So you need to know how to what? How to write a good how to declare a good variable. So in variable declaration, there are some guidelines or there are some rules that we must follow to the letter. Otherwise, we're not going to have a good variable, or it will not define, or it will give us some coding issues. So some of the rules that we must stick to: one, that it can start with a capital letter or an underscore. That is the first rule. The second rule in variable declaration in Python is that it can be a letter. If it starts with a letter, it can be either a digit, that means a number, or underscore. That means numbers cannot start what your variable. You can't use numbers to start variable. They are case sensitive. There is no need for what special character. You can use special character to start your variables like at, hash, dollars, percentages. You cannot use them. Also, you can use spaces to start a variable, or variable cannot have space in between them. And also, you're going to avoid Python keywords. So these are some things you're going to understand when declaring your variable. So let me start with a Colab environment. So you said variable cannot start with what? With a number. So if I say, oh, 8 is my, let's say 8pj, or 8, let's say 8 underscore variable. This cannot be a variable. So if you are doing something like this, 8 underscore variable is equal to, let's say, 3, it cannot run. So if you say print 8 underscore variable, you're going to have issues. So let's look at that. So when you run this, you're going to have issues. So it's not going to run. So it's trying to get connected. So for one disadvantage, yeah. So you can say it specifies it specifies that, oh, your variable is not correct. So invalid lateral, decimal lateral. So it gives an error. So by the time I correct this, so let me quickly correct that. So just removing the 8 underscore. So I can still remove the 8 and leave it as what? Underscore. So, and when I print it, it follows the first rule. So you're going to print 3 for me. So it follows the first rule, which says that what? It can start with underscore, but with a letter, but not what? A digit. You can see. So it's case sensitive. All right, it's case sensitive. So let's go back to the Colab. So it's case sensitive. So if I should take this variable, I have this. Let me start with a small letter V. All right, and I print this. It's so I start with a letter. The variable start with a letter. So V is equal to 3, or V is assigned. So you can read this as V. So this equal sign that is here is like assigned. It's different from equal sign that we use in mathematics. So this means it's assigned. All right. So now we have this is assigned. So now, if for instance I want to, let me copy this into a new cell. So let me copy this into a new cell. So variable, but I'm now printing with capital letter. Take note of this. You can see now that the code is already crying. It has marked it. So it's already crying, meaning that you cannot do this. But let me just be arrogant and do what? And run it. It's going to throw an error that variable with capital V is not defined. So that is case sensitive. I hope I'm making sense. Yeah. All right. So now let's look at this rules that says no space in between variable. So let me assume I want to define a variable. So let me say I want to define a variable of, let's say, oh, I decode my variable. Um, Let me say my number. So my number is what? 3. That's the name of my variable. You can see the code is already crying. That is some benefits we enjoy when using an integrated environment. It's saying that, oh, it's going to detect it before you run. But in other programming, they will want you to make your error and detect it during compilation, all right? So now when I type my variable, my number, I run it, it's going to throw an error saying that my number, because it has space there, is invalid syntax. So who can give me the correct way to do this? Can anybody tell me the correct way to do this?
Yes, is either you put underscore there
Okay,
or you write it all together.
all right. So let me go with the first option, putting an underscore. Yes. So when you put an underscore, it's going to run it successfully. Or the other option is like, you said the other option is what? I should put them together.
Writing it all together, yeah.
Yes. Writing it up together. Yes. So these are ways you define variables. So we've seen how to. So also we must avoid uh, reserved words in Python. So there are some reserved words in Python, okay? So we must also avoid the reserved word in Python. So how do we how do we get this reserved word in Python? Or how do we know the reserved word in Python? So we should not erroneously use them. All right, so we're going to look at how to get this reserved word in Python. So to get all the reserved words in Python, you're going to do, let's say, import. Or okay, let's just start with some reserved word in Python as our variable. So some prominent one is like if. If you use if to start a comment, it's going to be an error. So say if is equals to, let's say, 3, and you say print if, is going to throw an error. You can see, so invalid syntax. So there are about 32 reserved words in Python as at the last time. So the last time I checked, it was about 32. But let's see how to check those reserved words in Python. So you use the keyword import. Say import keyword. So you say import keyword. All right. So you do print. You do print keyword. Yeah. Dot keyword lists. So it's going to show us the keywords in Python. You can see all the keywords in Python. So here are the keywords in Python: false, none, true, and, assert. So these are wait, are break. So these are words that you cannot use. So you can see one of it was what I used, if, the other time. So you can't use this word in Python, okay, as your variable. So you must avoid them. So let me print the length. Let's say how many are there. I remember the last time I checked was about 8. Huh?
We are not seeing your screen, sir.
Oh, you want to see my screen? Let me stop presenting and
We
represent.
can see what we can see. Maybe only him. Maybe network.
Okay, thank you.
Mm.
How about now?
I can also see. We can see.
All right,
Maybe
thank
it's
you.
network.
All right, so let's check how many are there. So to detect how many are there, how many lengths of these keywords we have. So you type length using the function word length. So you type length print length of keyword instead of using print. So just the length of what this guy. So so now is 35. Last time I checked was 32. So they've added some to it. So we have 35 keywords in Python that you cannot use as what as your variable. All right. So these are some basic things we're going to avoid. So now I believe we all know how to declare variable properly. Can I see thumbs up? All right, all right, all right. That's excellent. So also, if you are using the Android, I hope you are following the class. Use your Android version of Python to practice. Hands-on is very important. All right. So another thing we're going to look at in the slide that we have. So we've seen all of this, how to check, we've checked them already. So now the other thing I said the other time that are very important in your programming development is these two things, which are um, the concept of variable and data type. So we've seen how to declare variable properly. So now let's look at how to identify data types. So data types are of two types, or we can classify them in two categories, either a primitive data type or non-primitive data type. So primitive data types are they are kind of unique, meaning that they are they are prominent. That means they are well known. They are just like the SI unit of Python of programming. So the SI unit, just like the standard that everybody knows. So those are the primitive data types. All right. So some of the primitive data types that we have are the numeric, so the integers, the string, all right, and maybe mapping and sequencing. So sequencing are not that primitive to a large extent, but to some extent they are primitive. Then Boolean are also primitive. So they are just like the standard, okay? So we're going to look at all of this together. So let's declare an integer. So let me go back to this Google Colab. So let's declare an integer. So let me say var. Let me call it var. So let's say var is assigned to, let's say, 2. So we want Python to look at what type of integer do we have. So you say type of what? Type of var. All right. So when you print this, so you have what? Integer. So Python knows that. So anytime he says a variable is assigned to a number is an integer, Python knows that already. So right. So now you can also do var. Let's say var1 is assigned to, when I put a quotation mark, either single or double. Say, yeah, I have a question.
Yeah, I have a question, but question in form of clarity.
Okay.
Sometimes I see them not classifying strange as a primitive variable.
String.
situation and a case like that. Yes, yes. And the reason being that if you look at most of the primitive, they
Yeah.
start with the small letters. Most of the primitives, but string being a capital letter made it somehow not recognized as a primitive data type. Sometimes, if you look at the two, I don't know, maybe you have observed it.
If we look at,
Okay, my question is, the clarity is most of the time I've seen a situation whereby they don't classify string
okay,
as primitive.
yeah,
Reason being that most of the primitive data types, most of them comes with small letters. If you observe them,
yeah, you are correct.
but string being a capital letter made them not classifying it as
Primitive.
a
Yeah.
yes.
Yes, you are correct to some extent. Yeah, even even the not so they try to because some of the they are getting interwoven. So although the primitive and the not primitive they don't really make any big difference, but either primitive or not primitive, there is no unique thing about it, but it's just for readability. So that's why we classify them. Yeah. So so let's say we have a string. Thank you for that. Yeah. So let's say we have a string called, let's say Monday. Yeah. So if I should type the type of Monday, the type of one, so I'm going to get string. So it identifies this. All right. So and also, so you can also check for, let's say, let me declare var2. Let's say var2 to be equals to, let's say, true. All right. So when I type the type of var2, so when I check the type of var2, I'm going to get a boolean. Yeah. So these are some data type we're going to be using. So, right. Another data type we're going to look at, let's say var3. So let me just declare a set of curly braces, yeah, or a square brackets. So let me say type of var3. So this is how to check the type of var3. So when you do this, you're going to get a list. So when you look at var4, so let's say var4. So when I declare something like this, so we're going to get type of var4. So this would be like a tuple. So, all right. So we're also going to look at, let's say var5. Let's say var5 is like, so let me just do something like this, a curly braces. So let me put something inside. I shouldn't leave it empty. So okay, let me just go the same way I've been going. So let's say type of var5. So we're going to get a dictionary. Yeah. So although there are distinction between dictionary and a set. So but when I do something like this, so this same curly braces are used to declare a set. All right. So, and I think this is where primitive and not primitive should come in. So let's say verse 6. All right. So when I do something like this, so let's check the type of verse 6. I guess we should get a set. So you can say now, so when I declare it empty, it sees it as a dictionary. When I declare it with a certain item, it says it as what? As a set. So this is where primitive and not primitive comes in. So in this type, conventionally, this case is known as a standard. Okay. So but this case is a special case. So that's why that classification we have it there. So and lastly, we can also if we define this in another form, okay, let me come and define this, but with some certain item in it. So let me say over 7. Sorry for my numbering, but I just want to be consistent. So let me say I have A that is assigned to 1. So if I check the type, it's going to be dictionary because I'm following the conventional way of defining a dictionary. So now there are other types of ways you can also define your data type if you don't want to use what we are using. So let me say var9 or var8. Let me assign it to, let's say, dictionary of, so let me say this is an empty dictionary, okay? So when I type of, if I'm too fast, please, you can draw my attention, please. So let's say var8. So it gives me a dictionary data type. So, and lastly, if I should think of, I can also do this like a set. So a set of, let's say, numbers or without a number. So if I should run this, it gives me a set. So this is where the dynamics comes in also. Why Python is being dynamic. Remember, I declare a var8 as what? As dictionary, right? So, but by the time I change it to a set, you can see automatically using the same variable, all right? So it's going to give us another, it's going to detect that this is different from the dictionary you input earlier. So that means you can redefine variables. So that is the dynamic nature of Python. But other programming language, let's say Java, will not accept this because it's a static language. So now so you can also define some other unique variable like list of. So using a function, so list of. So it's going to detect that this is a list. All right. So, and also you can also declare a variable like a tuple of. So a tuple of, and it's going to detect that this is what? A tuple data type. All right. So any question at this point? Any question at this point? All right. So like we rightly said, dictionary holds what? A set of what? Key and values there. All right. If you see the way I declare my dictionary here earlier, so this is called the key, and this is called what? The value. All right. One is the value, and this is called the key. So that is how you develop. So that is how you develop a dictionary. So now there are there are also sequencing data types. All right. So let's quickly look at the sequencing data types. So sequencing. So let me say my. So let me call it my range. So this is an example of a sequencing data types. So sequencing data types is just like they follow a particular order. So let me say the value is like a range of, let's say a range of what? Let's say numbers from where? From 1 to, let's say 10. So when I print my, so But if you are using a Colab environment, it's not necessarily you type the word print, okay? So you can use print. If you are using a non-Colab environment, so you can use print, say print my range. All right, so when you do this, it's going to print out the range, the values, okay? Yeah, so, and so these are what sequencing. These are example of a sequencing data type. All right, so, and also sequencing data type just follows some particular order. So we've seen various data types that we have. So the primitive and not primitive. So basically, so we can say we can also declare some a not primitive like lists. So because they are kind of ordered and they are what mutable. Mutable means that what you can change their values. So that's mutability of a list. So let's quickly talk about that a little bit. So how do we differentiate between lists, or how does Python dictate mutable and immutable data sets? So let's look at some examples. So we've seen a dictionary. So let's quickly work with some operations here. All right. So let's say we define a list, say my lists. Let's call it my list. So let's say my list is like what? So let's say my list is like a number. Let's declare list of number. All right. So let's say we declare a list of numbers. So I want to say, so we can do my list now. So it's going to print out the list, which is just number 1 to 10. So let's say I want to replace an item in this list. All right. So let's say we want to replace an item in this list. So uh, it is ordered, okay? So we can follow a particular position. So we can follow a particular position like saying, okay, I want to replace in my list, I want to replace number in index what? In index. So Python numbers their value in form of what? Indexing. So let's say we want to replace an item in index. Let's say the first one is seen as a 0 index, 1, 2, and 3. So let's say we want to replace the first one by what? By 4. Or the fifth by number 5. All right. So when I type my list, I think we should have something different. So meaning that number in index 3 has been replaced. So when I type my list, you can see, so number in index 3 has been replaced. Say this is index 0, 1, 2, and the number 4 has index 3. So we replace it with what? With 5. So that is what we call mutability. All right. So now let's look at a tuple in its own case. Let's say my tuple. So my tuple is the variable is assigned to what? is assigned to, let's say, let's create a tuple of numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So, and we attempt to print a certain element in this tuple. Say my tuple with an index, let's say index 3, just like we did to list, to want to replace it by 5, and it's going to throw an error. That means tuple does not support assignment, item assignment, meaning that you cannot replace an item assignment. So, and that's why sometimes when you open your data set, you want to make them private. You can set your data to be like tuple, and nobody can change it. Either debuggers or hackers, they won't be able to change it. So that is one of the usefulness of tuple. All right. So we've seen why some data set are said to be what? Immutable or mutable. How this concept is clear to us. Any questions so far? And I hope your codes are running. If your code is not running, please signify, or you can share your screen so that we fix your bugs. Any problem? Oh, why are we not interacting? Can we proceed? All right, thank you. So now let's look at how to use some control in Python. All right, some controls like, okay, before we look at controls, so let's quickly look at some things. Like I define programming structure to be like it takes some things, it input, it process, and it store, right? And it outputs. So uh, basically, we've been using this concept. We've been assigning input, it's just like you are assigning, okay? So we assign this, we impute this into this variable. So input, we've seen input, we've seen store. So variable store, it stores what? It stores your number or your assignment. So that is what variable. So we says it as it's just like a placeholder. So variables actually do the storage. We're going to see that in a minute, and we are going to look at output. We've seen the output already. So how we use the print function. So to output in Python, we use the print function. To input, it's just like you assign. So and there's also a keyword. So now let's look at what happens when we store variables. Say var1. Okay, we have a variable. Okay, let me redefine the variable called var. Let's say var is assigned to a string, say Monday. All right. So and I run this. So what have I done? I have input Monday into a variable, and it has stored it. So if you want to check where it stores it, I'll just do id of what? Id of variable of var. So it's going to give me a unique ID. Can we see? So this is a unique ID. So this is a storage location in the memory of my computer, of my machine. So this ID, this is where it stores it. If I should take the ID of what? Of variable. Which other variable do I have here? Let's say variable 8. It's going to give me another ID different from the one I have before. So this ends with what? 48. This ends with what? 68. So these are the storage places. It's identity pointing me to, oh, this your variable 8 was stored in this location. this variable was stored in this location. So this is the storageability of the program. We've seen the assignment. So also we can input. If you don't want to input manually, all right, so you can also input using, so let's say variable what? Variable, let's say variable what? Variable 1. Or let's say, instead of using variable, let's use my number. Say my number is equals to what? So let's say my number is assigned to input. I want someone to input a number by themselves, or a user to input a number. I will do this. Enter number. All right. I will do this. Enter a number. I will do my num. Okay, let me call it num1. All right. Let's say this is num1. So let's assume I also have another num. Say num2. I said input what? Input, I say enter a second number. So we've entered a first number. So we've input two numbers, all right? Then what are we asking him to do? Print the numbers for us. Print what? Num1. So print num what? Num1.
No, my num1.
Yeah, thank you. My num1. Then my num2. Okay, we ask him to print these two numbers for us. So the user can be able to enter their numbers now. So enter the first number, let's say 3. And when I click on enter, he asks me enter the second number. I enter 4, and it's going to print 3 and 4. You can see, so this is the ability of inputs. So that's this definition of computer we know. So input, it input it, it process it, and we can go and look at the storage now. So let's look at the storage of my num1 and num2. It has stored them in different places in my machine. So that in the next few months, I will be able to retrieve it if all things being equal. Yeah, so that is the storage ability of the program. So my num1 and what? My num2. So you can say now, it stores them in different places in my memory, so that by tomorrow I can still come around this program and it's going to give me where it stores it. So that's storage ability, the input, and we've seen the output. So this print function enable us to what? Output it. So there is what we call processing. I have not talked about that, but we talked about processing when the time comes. So he does some processing. So like the definition I gave, input, we've seen input, we've seen output, we've seen storage. So the processing, so we can look at that, okay? We are just working in a black box mode there, okay? So what we are doing now is in a black box mode there, meaning that we don't care about the processing. Let's have our output first. But as time goes on, we'll look at some processing, how this works. So, and that is what we call maybe the machine learning, the algorithm, the machine learning development, things like that, how this process really works. So talk about processing, but some of the processing or the controls can also help us to understand some processing, but we won't go into those aspects, but these are the things we know. So we can perform some different arithmetics. Let me copy this code into the new cell. So let me copy this code into a new cell. So let me provide some arithmetic here. So let me ask him that, okay, when we enter num1, num2, there should be a result. Let's call the result num1 my num1 plus my num2. 2. All right. So let's take these two results and have it. So, and I want, instead of me printing num1, num2, okay, I can say, oh, the sum, okay, let me open a string here. Say the sum of num1 till the sum of num1 and num2 is is so results. So I said this print the sum of num1 and num2 in is result. So let's see if this will work. So as usual, we'll run our codes. It gives me maybe my network. Okay. Oh, sorry. There should be some punctuations here. Yeah, yeah.
I think because you are using a single quotation within, you should use double quotation outside.
Yes, it's, yeah, you can use double quotation too. Yeah, but the issue was this comma, this semicolon was declared outside
Yeah,
the,
you didn't put semicolon before results earlier.
yes. So I fixed that. So let's say the first number is 3 and the second number is, let's say, 4. And I wanted to sum it together. Oh my God, we got 3 and 34. Quite terrible result. Yes, because that is what we call concatenation, right? So it joins the two together. So these are some operations we are going to look at in Python. So what happens in this summation? We expect to have 3 and 4 to be 7, not 34. But we are getting the result 34. So we need to fix this issue quickly. So to fix this issue, yeah, I didn't specify the data type I'm working with. So I need to specify, oh, what I'm imputing is what is an integer. All right, so then it can sum it for me. But he assumed that what I've input is a string and it concatenates them together. So to fix this, I will just open the bracket here and say int that, oh, give me an integer. All right, open the bracket here, let these numbers be what? Integer. Then when I run my codes again, oh, okay, yeah, sorry, my sequencing was bad. So yeah, think something like this. Yeah, so yeah, let's enter the first number 3, the second number 4, and it sums to 7. So these are why we need to understand the operations of what? Of Python. So what are the operations we need? So to avoid these types of errors, so we need to look at what we call operations of operation, or yeah, to quickly look at the operations in Python. So we can do a whole lot of operations in Python, ranging from arithmetic operations to different types of operations in Python. So in arithmetic operations, so there are so some of the operations in Python. The first one we're going to look at is like concatenation. So what do we mean by concatenation? So concatenation is like they join things together. So now in concatenation, let's define my string. Say my string. Say my string is what? Hello. All right. So and let me my string 2. So let me say my string 2 is like word. Let me use or yeah. Okay, my string 2 is what is your name. So now I can join these two strings together to make a particular statement. So using a plus operator, say my string, I should have another variable called results equals my string 1 plus what? My string 2. So when I do this, if I should print my results, I will get hello, what is your name? Yeah, good. But there is still some issue to fix here because this hello join with what. So in order to fix that, I can put a space here, and my issue is fixed. Yeah, I can put a space there, my issue is fixed. Or I can put a space before W. So there's ways of fixing those type of issues. So this is concatenation of strings. Can we also do this to numbers? Let's assume I have, let's say I have say my num1. Let me just say num1. Num1 is assigned to, let's say 3. Num2 is assigned to, let's say 4. And if I should do num1, if I should do results to what? Num1 and num2, and I print results. So I will get, okay, yeah, I will get my results also. But if num1, yeah, we get our results also. So we can add numbers if they are integers, we can add them together. But if they are strings, so if numbers are strings, so you can also, okay, yeah, if numbers are strings, you can also, this is strings of numbers. You can also add strings of numbers together, but it's not going to give us the desired results. So it's not going to give us the desired results. So when you add strings of number together, it concatenates them together, just like it joins strings together. So, but if I add, can I also subtract strings of numbers just in case? So if we do subtraction now of strings of number, it's going to throw an error. All right, so you cannot subtract numbers. In the same way, we have above here. If I should put subtraction here, you cannot do that. It's going to throw strings of numbers. So only addition is used for concatenation. So if I should multiply, let's see, if I should multiply, will it work? Yes, it's going to work, but it's going to, okay, no, it's not going to work. Multiplication tool fails. Division, and division works? No, division is not going to work. So only addition you can use to concatenate numbers together in Python. So also, this is strings of number. So if I should multiply the same way we have in the other cell, this is not going to work. You cannot multiply sequencing of operations together, only add. But the result, if I should put asterisk in this result, I'm going to get error. But there's a way we can also do multiplication to repeat a certain operation. Maybe that is out of my mind at this moment, but yeah. All right, so okay, yeah, I think I messed up something. So I can do num1 multiply by what? 3, okay, or multiply by 4. Num2 multiply by what? Multiply by, let's say, 3, or yeah, 3. So meaning that it's going to work, but it's going to repeat 3. How many times? 4 times. 4 is going to repeat it what? 3 times and join them together. So also in this previous cell, I can also use multiplication asterisk to do some certain operation. Yeah, say I want hello to be multiplied how many times? Let's say you want to write hello, 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 what is your name? So I can do that like saying hello in 5 times. So it's going to multiply string 1 by 5 and add it to what? String 2. So when you print the result, oh, we're going to get hello, 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 what is your name? You can see. So these are some operations we can what? We can play with while doing our Python. Any question at this point? So before we go to conditioning, so let's look at some arithmetic operation so that we can perform with Python. So say arithmetic. So in doing some arithmetic operation, so we've seen addition already, we've seen subtraction already. So, but let's look at some other arithmetic operation. So let me just run them through codes. All right, so let me run them through codes. So let's say we have num1 to be like num1 to be this, to be like a number. Okay, say num2 to be this number. Then I'm doing num1 plus num2 to, yeah, 7. If I should do num1 times what? Num2 is going to give me what? 12. That means 3 times 4 will give me 12. If I should do num1 minus num2, I'm going to have what? Minus 1. That means 3 minus 4. All right. If I should do num1 to the power of what? If I want to do power, so this is power. I put double asterisk. All right. So I'm going to get what? I'm going to get, that means 3 to the power of 4. And I think that should be 81, right? Good. So that's excellent. So these are some arithmetic operations we can play with. So if I should do num1 divided by num2, all right, so let me leave this cell alone. So you can do your arithmetic operation in 2 ways. So let's say you want to divide numbers together. So num1 divided by num2. So this, okay, let me use this first one. So this will return the remainder, meaning that 3 divided by 4. So it's going to give us what? 0 remainder what? 0.5. That's what we have. So you're going to return the remainder. Or let me use a unique number for proper understanding. So let me say 30 divided by what? 5. So it's going to return 6. All right. So now, if we should remember, we've talked about data type but we didn't look at this specific data type, which is called a float. All right, but I can't go without mentioning it. So if we look at data types of this result, now it's going to give us floats. So let's look at the type. So let's say type. So type of results is going to give us floats. So float is another unique or a primitive data type in what? In Python. Okay. So it's like numbers that ends with decimals or that begins with decimal, right? So that is what it floats. All right, but if I should change this divide to something like this, if I should change this divide to some with using double divide, so this is what we call integer division. So integer division is going to return what? It's going to return the number. All right, num1 divided by num2 is going to return the remainder. It's going to return the number. How many times? You're going to return an integer instead of floats. Yeah, remember in this first guy, it returns what? It returns 6.0, but I want it to return an integer, so we have it to be 6. So if I should type of results now, you're going to see int. Can you see that? So it returns int for us because 6 is an integer. It's not decimal like this guy. All right. Another type of division in Python again is like modulus, which will return what? Remainder. Meaning that what? Meaning that, yeah, 30 divided by what? By 5 is 6. Remainder what? 0. All right. So it returns the remainder. So let me say if I should do 11 divided by 5. 11 divided by 5 is like uh, 2. Remainder what? Remainder 1. So now the result for this guy now, if I should run it, will be what? Will be 1. Let's say that it will return 1. Can you see? So that is modulus operator. So anytime you are using a modulus operator, it returns the remainder. So similarly, so we've seen the 3 types of operations we have with division. There are still more to it. So, but if you want to do exponential, we've seen exponential or power. So now these are some unique operations you have in Python. There are more to this, so you need to dig and read more and see some unique things about it. Any question at this moment? I hope your code is running. All right. So also we can also apply this same concept to some of the non-primitive data set like list, and you can add lists together. So let's look at, let's say my list is equals to, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, and my list 2 is assigned to what? Assigned to, let's say 4, let's say 7, 8, 9. So I can do my list 1, say results is equals to what? My list 1 plus list 2. So when I do that together, list 1 plus what? List 2. And I print, okay, let me say results. Yeah, so you can see, it's join the two lists together, just like concatenating them. So you have a bigger list that contains more items. So if you want to check how many items are in this list, you can just type length of what? The length. So you're using this method called length. Length of what? Length of results. Which is what? Right. So any question? All right. So meaning that there are 7 items in this list. Good. And which we can print and see results. Yeah. Also, let's see if we can subtract lists from each other. If I should put negative there, will it work? No, it's not going to work. So it says it throws an error that you cannot subtract lists. Let's see if we multiply. Yes, it's not going to work. You can multiply sequence of operations. All right, so only addition of lists, you can do that. So list can be of any types. It can be list of lists, it can be list of tuples, it can be list of anything, okay? So now we know how to declare a list. So let's look at dictionary and, okay? Okay, what else we need to look? Okay, let's look at some conditional statement in the next 10 minutes before we give it a wrap. So now let's declare some conditional statements. So let's quickly look at some conditional statement. Conditional statements takes like the if statement. So now we have our list already. So some of the if statements, they can be compound, they can be non-compound, they can be simple, okay? So let me say my list. We have a list to be this, and we want to check. I want to print out an element here. I say if 4. I want to check if 4 is in this list. So I want to print out 4 from this list. So we can say if we have 4 in where? In my list. All right. What should we do? Print, print, print good. So this is just an assertion statement. So yeah, you actually print good because 4 is in the list. Okay, now let me change this now to like 7. Let's see, if 7 is in my list, print good. It's not going to return anything for us. You can see, so because 7 is not in the list. So that is, we use some conditional statements to check. You can use them for checking. All right. So now, but for a program, if you run a program and you did not see anything there, you'll be bothered like, is my code correct or not? Except you are a senior developer, you know what actually transpired. But as a beginner or as a intermediate programmer, you feel like maybe my code is not correct. So you can move, you can move further by, this is just a simple word, a simple statement. You can move further by compounding it by using the else statement. Say else, you want to check. Else, what should we do to you? Print, print number not found. Let me change this. Number was found. All right. So now let's see what will happen. It's going to print the second option, number not found. But if I should do, let's say 3, all right, number was what? Found. All right. So this is how to check if a list, how to use the if and else statement to check. And also we use them to, to for other purposes apart from checking a list. All right. So we can, okay, we can say, okay, let a number, let's have a user to enter some numbers here. Okay, let me go copy this code we have earlier for this guy. Yeah, my number. So let me copy this code and put it here. So let's say we have my number is what? So someone should enter a number. Someone should enter a number. So we can put some checking or some conditions to it. Say if num1, so why is num1 so frequent in me? If my num1 is what? Is greater. If my num1 is greater than what? My num2. All right. If my num1 is greater than num2, print num1. Okay. Else, but else, what should it do? Print num2, right? Else print num2. Oh, my num2. All right. So we are saying that it should check and print a number that is greater. So a user will be able to enter a number and will be able to enter another number. All right. So let me make this correct because of integer issues. Let's say int of this guy, int of this guy. So if it says it as a string, you may not be able to distinguish between strings. So let's be very sure that it's an integer. So now if we want to check which number is greater, all right, so enter the first number. Let's say the first number I enter is what? Is 5. And the next number is what? Is 3. So next number is 10. So it's going to print 10 because the second number is what? Greater than the first number. All right. So I will run this program again. Enter the first number to be 1, to be, let's say, 100, and the second number to be like 50. I run it, it's going to give me the first number because the first number is greater than the second number. So this is how we use conditional statement for checking. And also, before we give it a wrap and I will open for questions, so we can also use it to check even and odd numbers. So let's say if we can now use those arithmetic operations we've learned earlier. Say if num1, if my num1 divided by 2. So we're not going to use divide, but if my num1 modulus num2, that means is equals to 0. So this is how we do equal sign in Python. So this double equal to are used for equality. So it checks if num1 divided by num2 is equals to 0. Print what? Even. All right, print even number. Print even number. Else, print odd number. So let me comment num2 because I'm just using one num here. So this is how to comment in Python. So you use the hashtag to comment in Python, okay? So there are 3 ways of commenting. Either you use hash or you. So, but let's just take this first one. So meaning that this line will be seen as a comment. All right. So and when I run this, program, so it's going to ask the user to enter a number. Enter your number, so enter 4, and he divides it 4. He checks if 4 divided by 2 is not equal to is equal to 0, then it prints an even number. So I've entered an even number. So let me check again with another number. Let's say 1,000, and when he divides 1,000 by 2 and he discovered that its remainder is 0, is an even number. So let me enter another number by, let me say I enter 33. So and you divide it by 2, you discover that is what? An odd number. this is how to use the conditional statement. So you can also expand this to other types of, so we'll continue from this place in our next class. So right now I'm open for questioning. Any question? Yeah, go on with your question.
Yeah, thank you for the wonderful presentation, and I really appreciate. So, but one of my question is based on the way you have been doing it, because I discovered that because I'm coming from a Java background, I'm a developer,
Okay.
and I'm coming from an object-oriented language too. So I've seen that majorly the way you have been writing the codes and the like, I think all the object-oriented language behaves in the same kind of pattern.
Yes.
So because I've been observing. So another thing I've been seeing is because of the newbies,
Yeah.
I see the way you write the if language and the other time that you take an input from the users.
Yes.
I I I I am observing that is there a library that we can use instead of saying input. That's one of my questions. Another question is um instead of giving a kind of, there is a kind of a place that we have to, there's this language that we use, uh, trans when you have to convert the words integer, where you have to put the integer. What's the language that we use? I've
Initializing.
forgotten. Not even initialize, because it's initializing if you are trying to invite an object from a kind of somewhere.
Yeah.
But uh, uh, let me try to. Okay, if I don't remember, where you have to say, okay, integer, and then input the whole of the details inside. I think there is trans something that we call it.
Well, yeah, there are different ways. Even if you don't want to use the input, right? If you
Okay,
don't want to use the
so
input, yeah, there are
I'm
other
just
ways.
asking that if there is a library that we can use instead.
Yes, you can use a library of random number. Okay, so
Okay.
you can use a random number that will automatically generate numbers on its own. So
Okay.
there's library for random number. So it will automatically generate numbers on its own, and you can specify a range of numbers for your library to work. So let me quickly run you through that example. Maybe that will
Okay,
help.
so something that I'm trying to remember, that place that you have to typecast.
Okay, yes, typecasting.
Mhm. Yeah, typecasting.
Yes. Yeah, Python has typecasting. Yeah, it has a way of typecasting its 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 variables or its values. It has a way of doing that also. So you can typecast and you can convert from one integer to another. So you have that ability to do that in Python. So let me answer the first question. So there is a library called import. So let me say import rand. So let's say we import random, then we print or we do, let's say x is equals to random dot rand int rand int. So we will specify our upper bound, and let's say 1 to 10, or let's say 1 to 10. So we specify the upper bound and I print x. Yes, it's going to randomly generate number by itself, and I can also use it in this program. So now if I should copy this number now, if I don't want the user to enter its value, If I don't want the user to enter its value, so I will just set my num1 to what? To X. And voila, I have either even or odd. Voila, it continue to check. So I can also
I
put
got
in,
you. I got you. But now, in the case that you want to take an input from the user, some users might not even know. Maybe the requested number is a number or a string. So I'm asking in a situation that can somebody just put a limitation such that when the person puts, let's say, the person ought to put a number and the person is not putting a string. So it will not, the system will just let the person know that, okay,
yes,
what you have inputted is a wrong, something
yes,
like that.
yes. You can do that
Is
using,
expected to put an integer.
yes, you can use that using conditioning. So you can say, okay, let me go back to this content and let me go back to this. I say, okay, num1 is this. I won't put int now, right? So I just say let the user input a number by itself. So I don't want to know if that number is either even. So and I will not specify if my num1 is what? I can specify if num1 is what? Is if num1 has a data type int, something like that. Print so or do a certain operation, right? So you can handle that uh, using this what's it called? Using the if condition. So, but there is a topic in Python called error handling. All right, the error handling techniques you'll be able to do that correctly, and there's a library to also detect that. So, in error handling techniques, So in error handling techniques, we'll be able to handle things like that. I think in the next class, we should be able to talk more about that. So when you have, so, so when you have such errors, so when the person enters a number that is neither strings or so, it should be able to detect this is an error or this doesn't match, or it will be able to convert it by itself. So it's just like using an operators or using the languages or the um, the control system or the control techniques to be able to handle such errors. So you have to define it yourself, or you can also import a library in error handling techniques. I don't know if I've answered your question.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So that is how it works. So in this case, like I just say,
yeah,
okay,
because I don't want it to sound as something too heavy for.
yeah. So and there is what's it called, the error handling techniques. Yeah. When in our next class we'll talk about that, so that you cannot basically define int all the time. Yeah. So if a user enters a number that is not that, so you can check you can first of all check if number is an integer, then print the number. Else, else you can do else,
Okay, true and moral.
throw up an error. Yes, you can handle that properly. Then you can use the exception. There is an exception keyword in Python. So the exception keyword, you'll be able to say, oh, this is the error you've committed.
Yeah,
Either
type of
value,
exception.
yeah, it's going to tell you either value function error or undefined error. So it's going to specify the type of error or lateral types of error. So you need to be able to sort that correctly. Yeah,
Yeah, thank you, thank you. I really appreciate it.
thank you for that. Any further question? All right. So in absence of no question, feel free. We'll meet in our next class next week, Wednesday. We'll also look at how to organize data. So we'll look at how to handle files. We've seen the basic in this class. So we're going to look at how to handle files and how to manipulate files. So the data analytic itself. Okay, before then we'll start with a function. We'll know how to define a function, then we'll start handling files issues. Then I think in our next lab, we'll talk about visualization, and yeah, you are fine. All right, enjoy the rest of your day.